welcome everybody to another episode of the Comic Chronicle podcast. I'm your guys' host, Dakota Morgan, coming to you from Phoenix, Arizona. And today we have a wonderful guest here on the show. We have Clay McCormack is on the show, folks. Writer, artist of many cool things, indie, bloody hell. Batman coming up here actually very soon. White Knight, I should say, with Red Hood, and much, much more. I mean, he's wonderful artist, by the way. Very beautiful work, very beautiful writing. And he's on the show today, and we get to talk about so much fun stuff. And if you're a fellow creative out there, you're going to take a lot of notes from this, because we talk about being a creative nowadays and getting your books out there. If you're comics especially, getting your comic books out there, showing what you got, being creative, and finding outlets as well too as therapy in a way. So we talk about video games, wrestling, comics, of course, Batman, a lot of stuff. Hopefully you guys enjoy this talk with Clay, and if you guys do like it, make sure you guys subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts for new episodes for people I talk to from all over comics. You can subscribe wherever you listen to the podcast, and I'm on Twitch, CodaRex97, if you want to catch my video game playthroughs these days, and YouTube, Dakota Morgan, where I talk all things dinosaur, nature, video games, other stuff as well. We post episodes of the podcast too. Twitter at Dakota Morgan 3 and Instagram at Dakota_Morgan 97. If you want to catch my adventures with animals, of course, and dinosaur things and comics and all the jazz like that. And yeah, I think that's going to be about it. I do want to say thank you to all the fans who have been listening to the show for a while now. We're on 3-4 years actually of this show, and it's a beautiful, beautiful time. So without further ado, though, on me rambling on, let me go into my talk with Clay. All right, and yeah, it's recording. Now, Clay, good man, I do want to say is thank you for joining me on the show today. It's actually an honor to have you here.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I have a few friends in the industry who I saw that you had talked to before, and they said you were a great guy, and so I said, you know what, let me get some of that.
Fuck yeah, well, thank you for that. That actually kind of makes me feel pretty good. Yeah, I mean, what's the power of doing this show for 3 fucking years? Is you definitely
3 years, huh?
Yeah, 3 years,
Yeah.
maybe 4 at this point, but I feel like we lost a year, so I don't really count that. Man, fuck. Well, yeah, it's honestly like, this is a thing. I don't know. Do you like doing podcasts that often?
Yeah, I do them quite a bit, actually. I'm a co-host on a Star Trek podcast that's been going for 8 years, I think.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I only became the permanent co-host maybe 3 years ago, maybe long. I don't know. Time runs together at this point.
Yeah.
I remember we were doing Deep Space Nine at the time, so wherever that was in the stack, I'm not sure. And I also do a Batman podcast with Sean Murphy, who does White Knight, called Badass, the Badass Podcast, where we talk about the Batman the Animated Series show. We're just about to start season 2 of Batman Beyond.
Wow.
And,
that's a good one.
Yeah, and I also do a horror podcast. All I do is podcasts, honestly. It's taking up most of my life. I have a horror podcast that I do called the Rotten Horror Picture Show, where myself and my co-host Amanda, we do movies off the Rotten Tomatoes 200 best horror movies of all time list. Basically, it's just all of this is an excuse for me to just watch a bunch of crap and then talk about it, because apparently people will listen, and I don't just have to. I give my girlfriend a break, and so when I'm like, listen, no, I need to tell you about the subtext involved in the Dawn of the Dead and the Day of the Dead back to back, and she's like, just do a podcast and leave me alone. I'm like, all right.
Oh, really? I feel like my girlfriend's on that road right now. I really do. I think she's like waiting for like that thing. She's like, listen, just start another fucking podcast. Yeah. We're in a apartment.
Well, I find it to be very fun. I like talking about movies and TV. I kind of weirdly, I see it as a bit of a writing exercise to a certain point, because if you're looking at something analytically, you're thinking about it a little bit differently than if you were just watching it to watch it. So it allows me to kind of work my brain around story and structure and illustration, all that kind of stuff.
And it feels you. It really feels you. I mean,
it does.
It is stuff you love too. I mean, if it was something you hated, you'd hate your life. that would suck.
But it's fun to. It's something I've kind of been doing my whole life, and now I can kind of monetize it slightly, so that's a plus.
Like I said, slightly, because everyone thinks if you do a podcast, you have to be rich or you get a lot of money from podcasts. But maybe you do. I don't know, Clay, because you probably have a way bigger audience than I do, and a lot of shit. But especially doing that many podcasts, I don't think a lot of people make money, like a lot of big money, unless you're like really big celebrity.
Yeah. It takes I mean, it's kind of the more niche your show is, probably the I mean, I don't want to generalize, but let's just say there's a lot of Star Trek podcasts out there, and so it's not exactly like we've got the entire Star Trek fan base listening to our show, but we do have our fans, and we appreciate all of them. Yeah. And what's nice is everybody kind of has a different take on things, and so you can kind of find the show if there are multiple shows about the same content or show or whatever. You can kind of look around and see what show lines up with your own kind of view or you enjoy the most or entertains you the most. So
I look at it as a library, and in every library you have a shit ton of books. Like, they're all books. Like, and then you have lots of different writers and artists, or if it's a comic or if it's just a novel, you have lots of different writers, and each one's different. And it's like that's what I love about it. And people keep telling me, they're like, "Oh, there's so many podcasts out there. There's so many." I'm like, yeah, but that's kind of a good thing. It really is. Like, if you're making it, maybe not, but in the sense of there's just options, and you hit it nail on the head there. Of you maybe like a certain subject and you don't like the host of it because they say certain things or whatnot, but you like the way that they run things there, and they have good music and shit like that. Like, hell, I listen to a podcast on Halo. I don't know, the video game franchise. Like, it's great.
It's crazy. Like, you can basically any kind of thing that you take in, if you look to see if there's a podcast, there probably is.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So, anytime I watch a new show or something that really clicks with me, like, ooh, I wonder if there's a podcast. And then I'll go check it out and listen to, you listen to two other people talk about it, and you feel like you're part of the conversation, which is nice.
Oh, yeah, and I can't really say too much because I do actually have a segment on the Jurassic Park podcast.
So there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, and I got a nature one coming out where I'm going to be talking to friends of mine who also work in the field of animals and such like that. So
excellent.
That one's going to be fun. There's not too many of those, believe it or not.
Oh, that's kind of surprising. Yeah, well, honestly, the shows that I do, I mean, I didn't start the Star Trek show. That was started by my co-host Wes. Excuse me. But the other ones, I kind of do them if there's a show that I would like to listen to that doesn't exist. I just figure, well, I just may as well do it myself. It kind of is the same approach I've had to do in comics, which is there's something that I want to do, but it's not out there. Why wait for somebody else to do it? I can just do it myself. Like my years and years ago, I did a short. Wes and I did a short series covering the '60s sci-fi show The Prisoner, which is my favorite show of all time. And at the time, there was no podcast out there that covered The Prisoner. And I just wanted to talk about it. And so we were like, yeah, let's take 17 weeks or whatever. And we'll just do this. And Wes had never seen the show. And so we went through it and we talked about it. And, I scratched that itch and then moved on to Batman and horror movies.
Clay, how the fuck do you have time? What do you do? What do you break to? Well, how do you do it, man? Like, you're telling me you do all these podcasts and also you work in comics. Like, and next you're going to tell me you have another job as well. Like, how do you make it work?
You just find ways to squeeze it in, I guess. You kind of, I have to eat breakfast every morning, right? So I take that to opportunity to watch whatever episode of Star Trek I have to watch or whatever Batman episode or something like that. And, you just find the spots to do it. I haven't gotten sick of it yet, so amazingly. But we'll see what happens if it keeps going for a couple more years. I might burn out.
No, because then you're going to start a new show. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it'll be entirely about burnout.
Oh man. Hey, if you know what, if there's a guy who works in the animal field right now, I'll tell you what, I can definitely do a lot on that if you want it. You ever hear called compassion fatigue? Oh, it's a hell of a thing.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Yeah, but I mean, you've been doing a lot of work, especially in comics recently too. I mean, you got the White Knight coming out, that little Red Hood book. I mean, you did even an art piece on a Godzilla book too, if I remember correctly.
Yep, I did a cover for Godzilla Rage Across Time, I think it was called. That was a few years ago now. I've done I kind of spent a few years doing covers and short miniseries. Where I so just not to go all the way back to the start, but I did a I started writing and drawing my own series called Dead Meat, which I published on the internet at like weekly, put up a page weekly, and then I would collect the issues into books that I would sell at conventions and stuff. And then around, I want to say maybe 2013, I can't remember exactly, it might be 2013, I hooked up with Sean Murphy through his artist apprenticeship program, where I got to work with him, myself and 5 other artists, I think, got to work with him for 2 weeks and kind of get a bit of a master class on comic art. Mm-hmm. And then from there I went off and I did a few series for IDW and Oni and a record company that was starting a comics division, and I did some covers and stuff. And then last year I published my first original graphic novel that I wrote and drew called Bloody Hell.
Congrats, by the way, on that, because that's a big achievement these days.
Thanks very much. Which was, I did a Kickstarter for that. Very successful, more than I thought it was going to be. And a great company called A Wave Blue World published the book for me. And I had been working with Sean on his White Knight stuff kind of in the background for a few years. And this spinoff came up, and he was like, "Do you want to write one?" And I said, "No, I don't." And then I, of course, said, "I'm joking. I would actually absolutely love to write one." So.
It's like, do you actually know we have the Batman podcast right now? Yeah. what are you asking the guy who's a co-host on that if he wants to write or do a Batman?
Yeah, that was the trick. Is I got him on the podcast and made him believe that I knew what I was talking about enough that he let me write a book.
That's how you get jobs. That's fucking why you have so many podcasts.
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
Wow, I figured you out, Clay. Figured you out. Oh man, that's brilliant. That is really brilliant. I mean, how is it being a Batman fan and working on? I mean, I've asked people this before, but I mean, as someone myself, I'm a big fan of giant monsters, and I was able to do my own giant monster book years ago.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and superheroes in my home city of Chicago, but dark, twisted version of that. But it's the thing of when you get to work on something that you love, because I'm guessing you love Batman, unless you're just really interested.
No, I do. You know, it's funny. I grew up, I was definitely much more of a Marvel kid.
Okay.
But I would say I was Marvel and Batman were the two. Like I was all over Marvel. Like I was, X-Men, Spider-Man, all the good stuff. But the only DC book that I really read was Batman. And I watched the cartoon, obviously. And one of the foundational movies of my childhood is the first Michael Keaton Batman movie. So that was always, Batman has always been, right up there on the pedestal with the best of them. And so, getting to work on it was, it was kind of a trip the first time that I got to see something that I came up with in a comic book. Like when we first started working together, Sean and I, it was on the first volume of Batman White Knight. And I was kind of his unofficial content editor and stuff, and we'd kind of like throw ideas back and forth and whatnot. And then there was one thing, I forget exactly what it was, that I suggested. I was like, oh, you know what would actually be really cool is blah, blah, blah. And then like a month later, he showed me the art for the issue, and that thing that I suggested was in the issue. And I was like, oh, wow, that's a first. Like it was my kind of like the first step over that threshold. And so, to finally have a book in my hands that has my name, the DC Comics logo, and the word Batman on the cover is pretty cool.
And it's going to be framed all across where you live.
Yeah,
you're going to get on every issue, and it's going to be crazy. Like you bought 5 issues, be like, listen, you're going to hand it out in a Christmas stocking, and be like, listen, here's a lot of work, thing I love, dedicated to you. There you go, dedicated to you, dedicated to you. Christmas.
Yep.
Man, it's got to be like the trippiest thing there. I mean, and I think fans and people who read comics, especially these days too, you don't often hear about that much anymore, about people being, hey, or maybe fans recognizing the fact of, a lot of people who work in these books, they're not just like people going from Hollywood or people, just out of the blue who maybe were interested in the books. Like they're actually people who give a damn that work on these books, and they're going to put in a lot of love because they love the characters.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, even the book that you hate has a ton of people who worked on it and put tons of man hours into it, and really have to love the process in order to put it out. it's like watching any movie. It's so easy to just go like, that thing sucked. And then when you sit through the credits and you see, there was 5,000 people who worked on this for like a year and a half.
They couldn't see their wife and kids.
Yeah, they had children in the span of time that they were working on this. You kind of forget that there are people behind these things. And we're kind of we have a bit of a luxury because Sean has the corner of the universe to himself. It's all Batman through his filter, no continuity other than what he puts down, and so it is kind of like a best case scenario for me, honestly, because I get to play in a sandbox with pretty much no rules other than Sean saying, no, don't do that. That's stupid. So
yeah, like not in this world. We save that for later.
Right,
all right.
Right, right.
Okay, well, so take that part out. We'll make that its own book, and I'll bring you back. Don't worry about it. That whole thing. I mean, I think nowadays too. I'll give you a hot take though. Are you ready?
Sure.
I don't hate any comic. There's no comic book I hate.
Sure,
I really don't. And people are like, oh, I hate this book. I'm like, how the hell do you hate it? You can dislike parts of the storyline and whatnot too, but I can never bring myself to actually get the amount of hate that I would have, like working in my job in animal crimes, one of my many animal jobs. There's a lot of hate in that job, but when I come home, like, there's no hate. I can't hate a book. Like, even though some of them where I'm like, I wouldn't have done that, but holy hell. Or it's like, this is a little bit out there, but it's like, I don't hate it. You can't hate a comic book, I don't think. Truly.
I will say in response to that, the only comic I've ever read that I truly hated was The Boys.
Really?
Yeah. I found it so angry and just mean that I just couldn't get past that enough to enjoy it, which is why I was so surprised that I liked the show. Because I don't think the show is mean-spirited, but the comic always just felt mean-spirited to me. So that's probably the only book that I would say, like, I actively don't like that book. But
you're not alone. That's a big audience, actually. That is a huge audience of that people.
Generally, I would agree with you, though.
Okay, all right. But you're like The Boys. That's where we draw the line. That whole big series is now on Amazon. Yeah, a lot of. I will give it this. I do prefer the show more than the book. Almost.
Yeah.
That's the big thing about it. So kind of. In the realm, though, of Batman, in a sense, there, like, do you have that dream project of Batman? I know we all kind of have ours, but do you have yours? Or is it kind of like, I worked on Batman, I'm moving on to my next character I want to work on?
I mean, I'll work on Batman for the rest of my life if you let me. I'm not gonna throw that out the window.
There's plenty of books. There's plenty of books to work on for Batman.
When you say dream project, you mean specifically Batman or just in general?
We'll go. Actually, it wasn't just Batman, but just in general. Like, do you have that thing out there? I mean, because you've done some big time work already, and you've done a little bit of your own thing too. So, what would be that big dream project, do you think, for you?
Well, I would love to work for Marvel. I would love to do some Marvel stuff. We'll see what happens now that I've kind of got my foot in the door at DC. It might be a little bit easier for me to talk to some people over there. I would love to do the X-Men, but I don't know if I have it in me.
Why say that?
It's just I need to find the right story. The X-Men is such a rich ensemble of characters that I think it would take me just as long to figure out what characters I'd like to use and what the story is I'd like to tell. And there's just such a great tradition of people telling great, soap opera type stories with the X-Men that it's a little bit daunting for me. My absolute dream project would be to work on Sandman Mystery Theater, the Vertigo book with the Sandman with the gas mask.
Yeah.
I love that book. That was always one of my favorites, and it's been on the shelf for a while. And I heard recently that a lot of people say the same thing, that they would like to work on it. So I probably won't be able to. But I would actually, as I was thinking about writing the Batman stuff, and I was like, well, there's no rules here. Could I put the Sandman in this book somehow? Like sneak him into the background and maybe drop but I ended up not doing that. But we'll see. Maybe.
Oh, I mean, you could have easily done the second best and put Death in there. That's
true. Yeah.
Well, that could have been
there's a lot of stuff. I think what's nice actually about kind of what I've been doing lately is between Batman and my other work, it's kind of, I kind of feel like the only person stopping me from doing something at this point is me, because after doing the Kickstarter for my book Bloody Hell, I was like, oh, okay, well, this is a viable way to do something. So even if nobody else wants to do it, I can always do it myself. So it kind of, it's a nice feeling to be like, well, if I have a story I want to tell, there are avenues for me that I can do it. It's kind of it's up to me to not follow through on it at that point. It's really never been easier to get a book out there, whether or not it's Kickstarter or self-publishing or anything like that. So yeah, it's kind of nice to have a little bit of everything in front of me. And like right now, I'm actually doing, I can't really say what they are, but I'm doing two projects. One project that is under the DC umbrella, and another project that is completely original to me.
Oh,
so I am. Well, I guess I could talk about that one, but I can't really talk about the DC one. But so I kind of have two things going at the same time, where I in both worlds, and which is kind of where I think I'd like to be, to have the brand name stuff on one side, and then the more personal passion project stuff on the other side.
Which is, I heard, a really good way to do it. Like I've talked to a lot of people over the years, and the best way they say it is, keep doing your thing, because there's going to be stories you want to tell.
Right.
And,
right.
And and writing / doing art is therapy for us as creatives. It really is. So, you want to be able to do those stories, and you also want to be able to, pay your bills. Right. So that's also the nice part about it too. Yeah, being able to eat's good. But I think a lot of people have found that middle ground, and you're absolutely all right, by the way, because there is so many ways to make a book. Like, people tell me, oh, I want to make a comic, but I don't know where to go about it. I'm like, just go on the internet. There's so many ways.
Right.
Kickstarter is a big thing. There's a lot of people I've talked to who have done a lot of Kickstarter books. You got people who do social media books. You have people who do lots of different versions of it, and there's always artists out there looking for writers, or there's always writers looking for artists. And I think it's just the beautiful thing about the internet, one of the few anymore, but is you can create, and that you have the power to do it. You can put up a YouTube video talking about something, and the next thing people are like, I want that book. Like, all right, well, now we got to go make it. Or you have, if you're a writer, artist / artist, both of them combined, you can definitely, you're on your own fucking schedule, which seems great.
Right. That's the real luxury of it, is being someone who writes and draws. Like I said, it's kind of up to me whether or not I make something. Like I like writing for other people. I like drawing for other people, but I have a luxury that people who just draw and people who just write don't have, because the writers have to find someone to draw, and the people who draw need to find someone to write it generally. And so being able to do both, it allows me a lot more latitude for projects.
Which do you prefer, though?
I don't. It really depends which day you catch me on.
Oh, really?
Because I really like writing, but if I've been writing for a long time and then I go back and I do a commission or something, I'm like, man, I really love drawing. But there's the other days where I'm deep into a page that requires multiple perspective shots and vehicles that need to be drawn, or other things that just make the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I'll always just go like, why can't I wish I could just be writing something instead. So it really kind of goes both ways.
Okay, so that sounds about right, though. I mean, which ones do you think is more therapeutical to you? Because I'm betting that's art.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
It's I like, I'm definitely a hands-on person when it comes to art. Like I don't work digitally. I do my layouts digitally, but I do all my finishes and ink on paper. And when I finish working, my hands are black. So.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
Wait, are you left-handed?
No, it's just I'm not too precious with ink splatters and scratches and stuff like that. So like if you ever see me and my thumb is stained a darker color, that means I've been working a lot lately, because I've been doing a lot of like flicking art onto the board and stuff.
Just sitting there washing your hands for 10 minutes trying to get everything off.
Basically, like, yeah. It's actually, I feel really bad because my house, our house, all of like the molding on the windows and the doors and stuff is white, And so
Oh, no.
if you go through my house, it looks like someone's been like dusting for fingerprints, because there's always like a hand stain next to the light switch on the bathroom or something from where I put my hand on the wall when I still had something on ink on my hand or something. So.
Oh, your wife's gotta love it.
Yeah, honestly, she hasn't really commented on it too much, so that's a plus. But
well,
sure,
that you know of.
yeah, I'm sure once we go to sell the place, there's going to be some painting we need to do before we leave.
Clay, you get to buy all the paint, and you're gonna paint it yourself.
Yeah,
It ain't me who did this.
Yeah, I deserve it.
Oh man, I'm just imagining your office right now. There's just black spots everywhere, and people are like, "What happened here? Was like a villain around here, or some sci-fi monster?" Oh no,
you're not wrong.
No,
you're not wrong.
It was when it said we were only doing video. I mean, we're only doing audio because of the video you said of the office. I'm like, well, that's fine because right now we just moved in 3 weeks ago, so we're still trying to get everything together. Cool. Yeah, so we're thank you. And moving in Arizona is a very interesting time these days. But we're trying to get a new camera and a new setup going on, so that's why I was kind of like, that's fine. That's very fine. Oh man. So when you're not doing, I'm very curious, Clay, when you're not doing podcasting and when you're not doing anything with comics, like what are you up to? Do you actually have that free time or is it just sleep?
Yeah, I do a lot of just like sitting and staring at the wall.
Waiting to reboot.
Yeah. No, we've got our dog that I take out for walks, and I play video games. I'm not a huge video game person, but I'll dip in every now and then when I need to. And I obviously love spending time with my girlfriend, so that goes on the list as well. But
what game do you really play? Because that's going to be everybody's question. It's like, what does he play, and like what system and stuff.
Well, it's funny. I bought my first system since Nintendo 64.
Holy shit! I didn't think. Wow.
I bought my first system since Nintendo 64 a couple years ago. I bought a PS4. I finally broke down and bought one because I never, I don't know, the systems got so expensive, and I never played games enough that I could justify getting one. But it was, it was one of those Christmas deals, and it came with the Spider-Man game, which I really wanted to play anyway. So I grabbed that, and I'm really glad that I did because it's awesome. The thing that kind of brought me back to video games is when I was a kid, I was always disappointed that the game itself never matched the box art. Like the box art was always way cooler than the actual game.
Yeah, that was a thing for many years.
But now it's like a 1-to-1 where if you get a Spider-Man game, you get to play as Spider-Man, like legit, or Batman, or the one that actually hooked me back in a couple years ago was the Ghostbusters game.
Really? That one?
Oh yeah, I loved that game. It was
wow.
Where they had the cast come back and do all the voices and stuff, and it was great. The only Ghostbusters game I knew before that was the one for Nintendo, which is trash. So
forgot about that one. Actually.
Yeah, to have a game where you actually legitimately get to play as a Ghostbuster is very cool. And so I've been riding the PS4 wave for the past couple of years. I'm currently playing. I don't jump around a lot. Like I'll have like 1 or 2 games that I play through and then move on to the next thing. I'm currently playing the Evil Dead game, which I really enjoy.
Oh, the new one. Yeah, that just came out.
Yeah, I really liked the Friday the 13th game that came out a few years ago. It was a really fun style where it's a bunch of people play the camp counselors and then one person plays Jason.
Yeah.
And they kind of ported the same idea into this Evil Dead game where you get a bunch of people who play the Ash and all the other survivors and stuff, and then you've got one person that controls the demons, which is very cool. And so it's a lot of fun, and there's lots of depending on who you're playing with and like what their character skill levels are and stuff, it can be very different game to game. And there's not a big story involved where you can if you don't play it for a while, you kind of have to remember what you're doing or where in the story you are. Although I do love, I've never been a huge online game person. I much prefer single player stuff where that actually you go through a story. So I usually end up going back and forth between open world type games like Spider-Man or what's the last one? I think Mad Max was the last one I played.
Oh damn! You're the one of the few who bought that game. Wow.
Yeah, I think I got it for like $4 on.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Yeah,
it really does.
but I love the Batman Arkham games, and I am waiting. I still haven't played Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm waiting to waiting till I have knee surgery or something where I can't move for 3 weeks.
You and me both. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not shitting you. That's honestly what I'm waiting for. I'm like, man, do I get COVID again? What's gonna happen here? Like next time I get sick for 2 weeks, it's just over. It's just all right. Red Dead 2. Here we go. Yeah.
But it's usually those kind of games are I like fighting games a lot too. So it's like Mortal Kombat or something like that.
So you mean to tell me you might be starting a video game podcast soon?
No, I don't like them that much, and I don't.
No, oh shit! You really hyped it all up. Damn.
No, and I don't. I don't know that much about it's its own culture at this point. That I just very, very just touch the periphery of. So I would be no use to anybody on a video game podcast.
Have you ever dived into the Fallout games? I feel like you might like that.
I know people who have. I have friends who really like them, but I have not. I have not myself yet.
If you ever want to get another knee surgery, if you need something like that too with the Red Dead, that's a game that it's almost would be as worse. If your friends probably hyped it up for you, but I'm gonna tell you, I'm been a lifelong fucking Fallout fan, and there's also a TV show coming out too on Amazon.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, now's gonna be the time to dive in. Because you're going to be seeing all the stuff. But that's definitely the single player kind of Survivor, but dialogue.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's the one to go into. I'm not shitting you. There's so many of them you could do. And I think one of them itself, one of the older ones itself, would take you about 3 months to do everything.
Jesus.
But then you have multiple options to do. So then you can do 3 months in one storyline. And then if you want to be evil, you could do that. And whatever group you choose and shit.
I don't know. I appreciate that stuff, but I also like to play the game and be done with the game.
Yeah, that's not the game thing for you.
Yeah. So, for instance, I just remember the last kind of open world game I played was Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
Oh, that's a good one, yeah.
The pirate one, and I'd never played one of the Assassin's Creed games before, so it took me a little bit to get into it, but I thought it was great. I love that you could do the land stuff and then you could do the ocean stuff. It was very cool. The mechanics were very cool. But there was 3 or 4 subsets of missions and stuff that once I realized that I didn't have to do them to finish the game, I was like, all right, I'm not going to do this stuff because I like the main stuff, but I don't know if I need to go diving for buried treasure and fight off sharks for 6 months.
That's fair.
I did I would say I finished the story and I probably did maybe 70%, maybe, I don't know, 50, 60% of the side stuff. So I got the gist of it.
I mean, going back to Spider-Man though, did that make you cry? I gotta ask, because that made me cry.
Spider-Man was great. The last battle with Dr. Octopus is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in a video game.
Oh, was well written, well executed.
Yeah.
It looked great. Aunt May, by the way. I mean, people who listen to the show by now have definitely played that game. But Aunt May in there, man, there was a few people from the cast that actually came on. Dave B. Mitchell, who plays the Shocker, and then Stephen O'Young actually was on the show when the game first came out. This is a while ago now. Mr. Negative himself, he came onto the show. I actually got a signed Funko from him, actually right over there, and a little letter he wrote me from after being on the show.
Nice.
Yeah, that's. I think video games are almost a therapy within themselves. To be honest with you, especially single people. I say that, and people are going to be like, "Well, Call of Duty Online." No, not that shit. But the single player games where you get to play and you get to sit down, maybe you have a headset on, turn down the TV volume, have the headset on, drown out everything. I don't know, maybe.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
It's so therapeutical.
Yeah. I mean, even in the Assassin's Creed game, I would sit down to play and then I'd realize, I just spent 45 minutes sailing the ocean doing nothing.
Oh, really? That was me in the Spider-Man game. I'm like, I've been 20 minutes
swinging. Just swinging around the city, seeing. The thing I did in Spider-Man was I was trying to see if I could navigate the streets like it was actually New York, because I went to school in New York for 4 years. So I was like, all right, well, I know this is where the Madison Square Garden is. So if I go this way, 5 blocks this way, are they going to have this thing? I kept looking for landmarks, and they're there, but it's not exactly a scale model, obviously. So you gotta be a little bit smart about how you figure out how it's laid out. But it's really cool. You spend 15 minutes climbing to the top of the Chrysler. That game gave me vertigo. I'll be completely honest. Really? Yeah, that was having Spider-Man like run to the top of the Empire State Building. When he got up there, I'm not a heights person. I actually was like, I was gripping the controller pretty hard. Nothing's gonna happen to me, obviously, but it's just realized well enough that it affected me in that way.
That's how in-depth that game is, people. That is how in-depth that game is. I mean, I just remember putting off Taskmaster for the longest time. I really did. And a friend of mine was like, why? Like, because it's fucking Taskmaster. Because you know it's going to be difficult and pain in the ass of a mission.
Yeah, that was, I think that was the one thing I didn't do in that game is I didn't finish the Taskmaster stuff.
It's because you knew you're like, I can't fight him.
Yeah, I was like, I mean, it was one of those things where it's like these things are fun, but I don't know if they're fun enough for me to keep coming back to do this after the rest of the game's done. You know?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's true.
The Arkham games. I love the Arkham games. I don't think I've ever gotten all the Riddler trophies because it's just like, I could do this, but
you were able to sleep at night with that.
Yeah,
huh?
like you said, I do a lot of other stuff, so I could either track down 7 Riddler trophies, or I could go out to dinner with my girlfriend. So.
Oh my god! Oh, that just hit me in my heart. Oh
yeah, nerd.
Oh, thank you. Oh, my bad. Hold up here. Sorry, coach. Like shit. Oh man. Are you? Oh fuck! You know what? Those games, those Batman games themselves are just that. That.
Yeah, I love them. Right.
That. What was I gonna say? Those were part of my first ever video games. I think on Xbox was the Batman games. Or the Batman games. It was the what the hell was it? Batman Begins, and then the Batman Arkham Asylum game when I played that. It was like kind of real consecutive after each other. And I remember that was like my first into of, oh my god, superhero stuff can be really dark. Yeah. And that was the first time. I mean, I'm only 25 right now, but it's like at that time period, we didn't have that much of the dark superhero stuff. And like the Batman things I were watching was Michael Keaton Joker, that sort of thing going on. And then I saw more Batman Returns than I did the first one, though. That's because I never had the first one on VHS. I had Batman Returns on VHS.
Batman Returns gets a lot of
it's good.
Traditionally, it gets a lot of hate, but I feel like the last few years, it's really kind of come back around. I love Batman Returns. I think it's great.
Listen, you can't take it too seriously in a way when you have penguins with rockets on them. Like, I'm sorry. Yeah. And there's the rubber ducky, like fucking, I don't even know, diesel engine truck that goes through.
Right. Yeah.
Which Hot Wheels made a giant toy of, by the way. I might get that.
I think of it as, on the first one, it was Tim Burton making a Batman movie, and then in the second one, it was Tim Burton making a Tim Burton movie.
Yeah, that's very true. Oh man, Gotham Knights. Are you gonna play it?
Yeah, has that come out yet?
Yeah, that's in a couple months.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I like those characters a lot. I wish that they were more prominent in the Arkham games, but it's nice to see that they have a game to themselves. I'm also looking forward to the Suicide Squad game.
Yeah, that one got pushed back to next year though, so that's why I forgot about it a little bit.
Yeah, I honestly don't mind when they do that because they actually did that with the Evil Dead game. I think they pushed it back a whole year because they realized that the technology was changing so fast that they needed to kind of keep up. Otherwise, it was not going to look good on the new stuff. So they took an extra year, put some more work into it, and made it as bleeding edge as they could.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, you may as well, right?
Yeah, well, you'd think.
There's nothing worse than spending, 10 years making a game or whatever, and then you put it out, and if you had just put 6 more months in, it would have worked, but now it doesn't.
That's been the story of my life with a lot of new games that I've been buying, and it's not been even like big ones called Halo, and you would think that would be finished when it's released, but here we are.
My friend actually just introduced me to No Man's Sky.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, he was telling me that game when it came out kind of was a little bit hindered because they put it out a little bit early or something, and so he basically said it took a couple years for them to put all the updates in to make it into the game that they promised. But now it's actually really, really great. I actually playing it, I was like, I don't know why they haven't stolen this and made a Star Trek game out of it, because the concept just has Star Trek written all over it.
They have that Star Trek game where it's basically World of Warcraft, but Star Trek theme, Overleen.
Oh, is it the? I can't
Um,
remember what it's. Is it the Star Trek Online or something like that?
yeah, something along those lines. Yeah, it's free for me to download on Xbox now, so it's why I
Oh,
was
there you
like,
go.
I might
All right.
actually do that. Speaking of Evil Dead, and I know you didn't work on the book, but I am actually excited because I do want to put it out there in the ether, and people should fucking go pick this book up. Sergeant Rock versus Evil Dead, or Army of the Dead.
Yes, I just
Yeah,
heard Bruce Campbell's writing that, right?
yeah. I just read
Yeah.
like the thing about it. It's coming out next month. I was like, I really want, and it looks good. Like the artwork looks beautiful on there. I cannot remember who's doing the artwork, but I know Bruce Campbell's doing the
hmm
writing. But it definitely like that looks. I really want it. I
You
don't
know,
know
it's
why.
funny. I am glad that he's doing that because I had heard an interview with him from like a year or so ago where he was talking about how he was like, yeah, I'm kind of winding down the number of acting roles I take, and I'm kind of looking for other stuff to do. And I've written a couple books, and it's a matter of kind of finding the audience. And in my head, I'm going, do comic books, man. It's like
Yeah.
the Venn diagram of Bruce Campbell fans and comic book fans is basically a circle.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. Could you imagine how many comic book? I mean, shit. I love Evil Dead. So the most Evil Dead fans are comic book fans at this point.
yeah, yeah. It's the
Uh,
same with I'm a big professional wrestling fan.
oh really?
And the book that I'm currently working on, that's my own project, is a wrestling book that I'm doing with my friend, the artist Ricardo Lopez Ortiz. He's going to be drawing it. I'm going to be writing it.
Oh.
And one of the reasons that I wanted to do it is because watching wrestling and seeing the wrestlers themselves, not to mention the fans, they're all just the same kind of nerd that I am. They're all big comic and video game nerds, and like half the wrestlers have YouTube channels that's just them going to comic book stores and buying toys. So I was
Yeah.
like, I feel like there's an audience for this if we can find it.
I think. Oh man. Is that the next wave of people coming in as comic book writers and artists? Is everybody is like everybody kept saying, "Oh, everyone from Hollywood's gonna come to comic books." They're like, actually, no, it's people from wrestling and like all this other shit. Who would have had any idea? But I'm fine with that. I'm
You know,
absolutely fine with that.
I there's been a couple. I think CM Punk wrote a book, a comic.
Really?
Yeah. I don't
Oh
know if
shit.
anybody else has. I can't remember if anybody else has, but I
Mm.
know he has. Yeah, I think he wrote a Marvel book or something a few years ago.
There was a good you as a wrestling fan, which I didn't know you were, which is cool. There was a book I read. Fuck. 3 4 years ago, and I remember I had the creator on. It was an indie book because I really wanted. They were promoting it, and they said, "Can we come on?" I said, "Sure." And the premise was there's like professional wrestling is a big intergalactic thing, so it's like kind of Star Trek with it in a way. So like
Mhm.
that, there's like this big group, and they do big special tournaments, and it's Star Trek meets Mortal Kombat, to be honest
Sure,
with you. So they
sure.
bring people in, so like the champions of Earth have to come in and represent the Earth planet, but it's in a professional wrestling kind of setting. So people wearing suits a little bit there. They have the ring. There's different alien species around, but then there's drama going on of people actually, trying to inject others with drugs, and it was actually really cool. And it's like if you lose, maybe we might invade your planet, or you just look down on your planet. And it's okay. And it wasn't a kid's book; it was teenage, adult. It was supposed to be like an adult kind of book because they
Mhm.
did cuss and there was some blood being thrown when they were doing certain moves. And I don't remember the name of that book, but if a fan out there listening knows what I'm talking about, I don't think it's currently going on. But if you ever want to look like space wrestling,
Oh,
I think you
nice.
might enjoy that, Clay. I think you might.
Yeah, there's a book out right now by Daniel Warren Johnson called "Do a Power Bomb," which is really fun. That is wrestling with a sort of intergalactic edge to it. That's really cool. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but his work
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
is amazing.
That's
It's incredibly energetic, and he actually Ricardo and I have been kind of sitting on this book ourselves for I don't know 4 years at this point. Like the idea came to me, I don't know, I think back in 2018 or 2019,
Mhm.
and we didn't have our schedules didn't line up, and so we're kind of sitting on it, and I was getting a little antsy because I could kind of see the zeitgeist swinging back towards wrestling because it's getting very popular again. The independent scene is really big, and I have a tendency to be on the forefront of the zeitgeist, but by the time I get my product out, it's like well past. Like when I
Oh
did
no.
when I was doing Dead Meat, my online book it's a zombie comic, and it was something that I had the idea for when I was still in high school, but at the time I didn't have the ability to put a book out. I didn't have the artistic ability to put a book out, and so I didn't end up coming back to that till after I got like a number of years after I got out of college, maybe 3 years after I got out of college, which was 2009. Is when I started Dead Meat, and by that point it was like The Walking Dead had been around. Every version of zombies had already happened. I think the show The Walking Dead was probably in like its second season or something like that. So like when I had the idea in high school, there was no zombie stuff whatsoever. And by the time I got to the book, it's like, well, everybody's this kind of played out already. But I was worried the same thing was going to happen with Bloody Hell because it was the 100th anniversary of World War I. Bloody Hell's about five mystically powered Vikings who've been in prison for 1,000 years until they're set free when their prison's destroyed by an artillery shell from World War I.
Oh, so shit.
It takes place in like 1917 in the middle of the fighting in Flanders and stuff. And when I saw the 100th anniversary coming around, I'm like, okay, this is probably, there's going to be some stuff. And then I'm working on this book and Wonder Woman comes out, and the first Wonder Woman movie, and I actually had to like rewrite some stuff because it skewed so closely to some of the things I was doing in my book.
Really?
Yeah, and at that time I didn't have the ability to put the book out yet. And then, the 1917 movie came out, and I was like, oh Jesus, this is going to kill the momentum. But it didn't. It ended up my thing was different enough that it didn't overlap, and the wave for that wasn't as big as I kind of was expecting it to be. So when we came up with this wrestling idea, I was like, okay, we have this idea. I can feel it coming. Wrestling's on the upswing again. We got to get this book out so we can actually take advantage of it. Mm. And then Daniel puts his book out, and I was like, damn it. Because he's so great, I thought he was going to kind of like take all the oxygen out of the room. But I think on the other hand, I think what is happening is he's kind of opening the door a bit to some other projects, seeing like, oh, wrestling comics work. Wrestling comics people will buy them. People like this. So hopefully that actually helps us. And there was another book that came out called The Crimson Cage, I think, which was a retelling of Macbeth in professional wrestling in the 80s, which is very cool. Ooh, and yes. So that's a couple wrestling books kind of coming out lately, and I was like, all right, we got to get this going because the wave is coming and we need to be a part of it this time.
Yeah, you're just like, all right, it is here. We need to go. We need to be up. We're going to ride it like it's some Hawaiian wave. We're going to go in there.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's when the momentum starts. Wrestling, though, it's just big waves I've noticed over the years. Like it's like sometimes it goes down, then it goes up for a while, then it goes down. But I think like after having no wrestling for a while there, like it just all of a sudden has come back. It's like we are back, baby. That's cool. I'm excited for that, Clay. That's man.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, it's a hell of a time. It did. You were reminded me too of I actually got into a TNA match for free.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, it was a Universal Studio, and it's fucking stories. I'll tell it quickly because we're nearing the end here. You'd appreciate it, like we're at Universal Studios in Orlando.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Years ago, yeah, it was so weird. Years ago, we were there, and I believe, yeah, it was Orlando, and because there was monster stuff there, and fuck, this is 15 years ago at this point. It feels like, and we're there, and I'm with my family on vacation, and we're doing a thing, and these guys come up to us and say, "Hey, do you guys want to go see TNA wrestling?" Sure.
Yeah.
So like, maybe, like, how much is it? And I'm like, oh no, it's for free. Hey, we're just going around and we're looking at people. We have some extra tickets and we're looking at people to try to get in. And it was like 7 of us, I think, at the time in my family there. So like, they're like, you guys are a big group. We'll just take it right in. Sweet. Fuck yeah. So we're walking in. Oh yeah. And I used to play old WWE games as well too on the PlayStation 1 back in the day. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Me and my godfather would rest each other all the time. Oh, it was great. He whipped my ass in that game all the time. And so we do that, but then we get in there and they're like, oh, you're over here. And this is like, I've never went to a live wrestling thing before, but it was Universal Studios and they were filming it and it was live and shit like that. And they were doing all the stuff happening. And I remember they said, oh yeah, you're going to be behind the announcers. We're like, oh, that's kind of cool. We got put behind the Spanish announcers, but nice. I will tell you what, that was the coolest shit. Cause I didn't know Spanish at the time. Mm-hmm. But either way, they were more energetic than the English podcast.
Oh yeah. Did anybody get put through the Spanish announcers table?
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that was a running joke for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the thing. And I was a kid. I loved that shit. I was like, this is great. Like we had a blast. I think my mom at the time she went in. It was my grandma who was in she had electric scooter with her. So she actually took the electric scooter and like went up to the side of the walkway, you know, where they walk on. And so she went up to the side of there where other fans were, and she's in her scooter and stuff. And then I don't remember who it was. Came down, gave her a high five, and gave her partially a hug and shit like that. And the scooter got back up. And they had it on video too somewhere. You can probably find it from 15, 20 years ago. But it's that was a blast, man.
That's great.
It's like hockey. You got to be there in person and enjoy it better.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's honestly, when I got back into, you know, I watched it a lot when I was a kid, and then I kind of fell off of it in, you know, high school and college and stuff. I actually, the reason I got back into it was I had a good friend of mine was on Jeopardy, and he actually,
what?
Yeah.
Okay.
He won Jeopardy. He won one game of Jeopardy.
Oh, shit.
And one of the things that he wanted to do with his money that he won from Jeopardy was to buy WrestleMania on pay-per-view, because it was always like 60 or 70 bucks. So as kids, you never had the money to do it, and you know your smart parents wouldn't let you.
Yeah.
And so he bought WrestleMania, and we went over to watch wrestling. And it was the first time I'd watched it in probably 10 years at least, and it just hooked me right back in. And from there, and the other thing was my girlfriend also, it hooked her as well. And so we both kind of got into it again at the same time. And so we began going to, we started going to small, like the independent shows, because the independent scene is really great and has been for the last handful of years. And it was really different once we started going to the shows, because the same thing kind of happens to me every time we go to a show, which is for the first match or so, I go, this is so stupid. What the hell am I doing here? And then by the second or third match, I'm all in. And there's something about seeing it live that it helps you get it a lot more. Like it doesn't really click, I think, until you kind of see it live and go, okay, I understand what the spectacle is here. I understand what the draw is. And it is a really interesting and different thing, because it's a big magic trick, you know. The whole thing is a magic trick. Yeah. And when they get you with the magic trick, that's when it's at its best. But like any magic trick, you have to be open to the possibility of somebody performing an illusion. You know, you can't just be looking for the strings all the time.
Plus, on top of it, the energy that everybody brings, I think, is also a huge part of that shit. Like, it's
absolutely
a big part.
Yeah.
Like it's so crazy to me. And you know, when people are like, oh, everyone's really drunk there, I'm like, maybe. I mean, people have a couple beers and stuff, but like, it's not really the factor of it. Like, I think it's just this huge, like, everybody's there, everyone's able to forget everything, the bullshit that's going on in life, and you're just able to actually have fun. Like, it's kind of like an old preschool kind of thing, or an old, not preschool, old playground sort of thing. You know, it's a recess thing of, we get to enjoy this, we're gonna have some fun, and people are gonna be playing pretend and whatnot too. But it's just a big spectacle about it, but the big, huge, I don't know, it's weird. It's a weird thing, but shit, mine was, I fell back into it just watching WrestleMania a couple years ago. Yeah. Well, it was like the finale of it going on, and they're like, hey, come on, it's the final WrestleMania, we're coming in. And it was, I think we ordered 120 chicken nuggets. We had 4 bags of candy.
Did they close the McDonald's early that night after you guys rolled through?
I've never gotten a more dirty look in my life, Clay, from some of the fast food. Because on top of it, we ordered like 15 large fries.
Oh, wow.
One of my friends was like, we'll just go on drive-thru. I'm like, no, because they're going to shoot us through the drive-thru.
Oh, yeah, they would kill you in the drive-thru.
Like, oh, my God. And if not, they're going to come in and someone's going to slash our tires when we're waiting for our food. And we're going to be stuck. But yeah, that's when that hooked me back into there, and we were just having a blast with it. We barbecued as well. Like, we also cooked ribs on the barbecue too, so we may have had 140 nuggets. Yeah, we were going to town.
Yeah, that's something.
Shout out to Jesse for that one. That was a crazy time. I couldn't. But we just had it. Like, and the TV wasn't that large. It was kind of a smaller. It was a flat screen, but it was kind of on the smaller side and shit. But we definitely it got me back into it, and I think there was probably 7 of us there at the time in the living room just watching it, and it got me hooked back into it. I'm like, fuck yeah, this is the stuff.
Yeah, it's a good
COVID
time.
happened, and then all of a sudden it's like, damn it.
Yeah, it's a good time though. Like, you know, we'll have people over our house for usually WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, and SummerSlam. And we've got a couple friends who are just into it generally, but we have other friends that we've managed to hook because they've never even thought twice about wrestling. Like, why don't you come over and check it out? And by the time they leave, they're like, that was really fun. We should do that again. And my friend turns Royal Rumble into a bit of he turns it into a game. So basically, we all pick numbers and stuff. And so out of the 30 people who come through, you get 3 numbers, and then whoever has the winning number gets like some scratch tickets or something. So it's a good time.
I like it, man. I like it. I'm looking at the time now, and I want to say thank you for being very patient for this, because I'm looking at how long we've been talking. I was like, oh shit. I don't want to take too much of your time today, Clay. I just want to say thank you for coming on. Though this has been a blast.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. I mean, anytime, shoot me a line. I'll come back. You put a microphone in front of me, I'll talk for an hour. I do 3 podcasts. It's clearly something that I like to do.
Really? I don't know.
The next one of these times that you have me on, ask me one question and see if I can talk for an hour without getting the second question.
Oh God, that'd be amazing. I kind of want to take that challenge. You have no idea. Clay, what are some things coming up though? Because I want to give the mic to you a little bit here, pun intended. But things coming up that you can talk about. You talked a little bit about shit, but things that people can go pick up. Promote yourself a little bit here, man.
Well, like I said, I'm on a few podcasts. The Star Trek podcast I do is called The Penske File. We're in the middle of season 2 of Star Trek Voyager. We've done pretty much everything else. It's our last series of the original series that we have to do. And we do the new stuff on Patreon, like the Picard show and Strange New Worlds and stuff like that. We'll cover on Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/The Penske File. And the Batman podcast is called the Bat-Ass podcast, BATTASS, where Sean Murphy and I go through Batman the Animated Series. The horror movie podcast is the Rotten Horror Picture Show, where we talk about movies off the Rotten Tomatoes 200 Best Horror Movies of All Time list. And on top of all that, if you want to get some of my comics, right now, both, is this going up relatively soon?
Either today or tomorrow, actually.
Okay. Right now, the first issue of Batman White Knight Presents the Red Hood is on shelves. It's 1 of 2. The second issue comes out at the end of, I think it's the last week of August. So August is kind of bookended by my Red Hood book, which is I'm very excited about. So I think that's probably it. Oh, and also my graphic novel Bloody Hell is available. If it's not at the store, you can get it from the publisher, which is A Wave Blue World, and I think their website is awbw.com. It should be on there. But yeah, I think that's it at the moment.
Sweet. Where can people find you at on social media?
On Twitter and Instagram, I'm at C McCormack 414. So CMCCORMACK 414. And if you're in the Boston area, I'm going to be at Fan Expo Boston this weekend. So come by and say hi.
Nice. Well, like I said, Clay, thank you for coming on. Also, I'm really curious to see what you would have to say about the new Star Trek shows, like Picard and all that.
Well, head over to patreon.com/The Penske File.
Oh man. And I'll put it on record now too, Clay. If you ever have anything else coming out, like you got that indie project you're working on at the moment here, your very own thing, you want to come on and promote it, just let me know when.
Awesome.
Shoot me an email.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Of course. All right. Well, I'll let you go, Clay. You have a good one. Okay, good man. Thank you again for coming on. It's been a blast.
Oh, thanks so much. I enjoyed it.
Goodbye.